710 KEEL is your news and weather station.
Mr. AJ, I'm not going to say you've just finished a book, but you have a book out, and it's entitled Thumbs Up, God's Love Endures Forever. Now, there are probably a few folks listening this morning who don't know the genesis of your book, what it's about. Would you take a couple of seconds and tell us about you and your daughter, Studi?
Absolutely. My daughter, Studi, she is 19 now. She was a senior in January of 2013 at Burr High School, and, so was Miss Erin's son. And on that cold and fateful morning, in a matter of few hours, she was reduced from a bright young lady with so many dreams of future to a completely battered and helpless child due to a devastating motor vehicle accident that happened on LA 3132 because of icy road conditions. Her vehicle slipped and went towards the median and hit the big electric pole that came tearing through her car and hit her on the head. She sustained the most severe traumatic brain injuries that you can ever think of, and she went into the most deep comatose state that you can imagine.
How long was she in a coma?
She was in a coma for almost 4.5, 5 months.
Tell the story about why it's called Thumbs Up. This is just so beautiful.
The reason I made this is because, by profession, I'm a neuroscientist. So when I learned about her brain injuries, I knew by my knowledge of neuroscience as well as statistics that the chances of her surviving or making are practically zero. I mean, you could say 0.3% or whatever, but I, in my 15 years of career, had not seen anybody survive after that severe a brain injury. And they usually say, and the statistics supports it too, that if they were to survive, these people would remain in a comatose state or a vegetative state for the rest of their lives, being on life support, ventilator, what have you.
So pardon me.
Wait, he's got to get to the thumbs up. Hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
And this was the news broken to me by the medical community, and rightly so. I mean, I can't say, I would have done the same if I was declaring to another family. And the biggest surprise that happened to me was that, I learned this news from the doctors, and then I was supposed to come into the waiting room and declare the same news to my wife. She was waiting for me to come and tell her that this is what they have said about our child. She may not be with us for over the next 24 hours or whatsoever. And then I walked into the waiting room, and I was just, how do you break a news to a mother that she is not going to see her child for the rest of her life from now on? I really, really was struggling, and in my faith praying, like saying, God, please give me the courage, give me the word so I can declare it to a mother. And I went to my wife, and she looked at me and said, so what the doctor say? And the words that came out of my mouth, and I can't even make it up, the words that came out of my mouth was, she's going to be all right.
Seriously?
And this is not what was told me, and this is not what I had intended to tell her, believe me.
Why, in retrospect, why did you say that?
I still do not believe, but in my heart, even at that moment, as those words left my mouth, I realized that this may not be me talking. This wasn't me talking, believe me. I couldn't have said those words. I did not want to lie to my wife because, it would have been evident in the next 24 hours. Somebody would have said, yeah, that's what we told him. So,
when did you get the sign from Studi?
The sign from Studi came 2 weeks into her coma. Everybody had done everything to make her even flicker an eyelid, the most basic of human reflexes, which is blinking of an eye if something is touched to your eye. They had done it over and over. They had pinched her, given her painful stimulus to see even a flicker of movement, and she hadn't moved. And then 2 weeks into this coma, my wife and I were sitting right there, and my wife and another close friend, Stephanie, were sitting there, and we were given the news that 2 weeks have elapsed. She has not done anything, so probably I mean, we should start thinking about almost like organ donations. And my wife and I both kept saying, Studi, if you are in there, please give us one sign. Please do something, baby, so we want to know if you're in there. And I'm telling you, this is exactly what we're saying. And all of a sudden, she raised her left thumb. That was the most wonderful, unbelievable moment of my life. I have not seen anything ever. All of a sudden, a left thumb came up, frail, surely, but certainly. I ran out.
Hang on, we got to go.
Can you tell us how she's doing next? Can you stay with us?
Don't
want to know
move
how
at
she's
all.
doing.
An amazing story that is just beginning. Mr. Ajay Jawahar, his new book about his daughter Studi and the whole family, I would assume, and the recovery, etc. It's called Thumbs Up. God's Love Endures Forever, and more is on the way. With Mr. Ajay Jawahar, the title of his book is Thumbs Up. God's Love Endures Forever. It's a book about you and your family, but primarily your daughter Studi, who was injured in a car wreck a couple of years ago, and what were said at the time, the doctor said, you knew because that's your job.
Yes, sir.
Virtually no chance of recovery. And then I'm going to make a statement, then a question. Then miracles started to happen. I don't think I'm overspeaking. And before you expound on what I just said, to what degree prior to your daughter's accident were you what I will call a man of faith? And through this ordeal, how has that changed and strengthened?
To answer your question, before her accident, I was, and I still am, a very ordinary man. I could not claim that I was a man of tremendous faith. I mean, I went regularly to church. I prayed whenever I could. And, you know, sometimes even going to church could have a conflict with a football game or something. And, of course, football game took precedence over going to church, same as anybody else. I used to read some Bible whenever I could. But other than that, I cannot claim to be a man of extraordinary faith. I think my faith was very similar to the general faith of humankind, where we get into any kind of situation. When we are happy, we forget often to think. And then we get into some kind of a situation, we first try to fix it ourselves.
Sure.
Absolutely try to fix it ourselves. And then when nothing is happening, then we remember, say, oh, let me say a prayer. And that was me.
There's an old Dennis Miller, the comedian line, nobody turns his life over to God on prom night. It's when we paint ourselves into a corner or are painted into one.
Exactly.
I'm looking at the Pray for Studi Facebook page, which you started almost immediately.
Yes, ma'am.
She went to her formal with her sorority. She looks gorgeous.
Well, thank you very much.
How is she doing today?
She is doing wonderful. She attends the Centenary College of Louisiana. Now, because of her certain cognitive handicaps that she has, she's not able to take a full load. So she takes as many classes as she can handle. Right now she's taking 8 hours, which is 2 classes this semester. And she lives on campus, so she's able to live independently, although they have been very kind to allot her a room, which is safer and friendlier. I mean, it's on the ground floor. It has a shower that has a, thing to support and hold her. But physically, she does still suffer from a few handicaps.
She can't drive any longer?
She cannot drive. She doesn't want to drive. Her left hand still continues to be withered. I mean, she was completely paralyzed on the left hand, and she's a left-handed kid.
Oh.
As she was going through her recovery from the auto accident, do you remember a point where through the physical recovery and, of course, mental recovery, when you said, oh my God, that's my kid?
Absolutely. That is something that I so vividly remember. And this was about 4.5 months into her recovery. She had not spoken a single word. She had not even made a sound for 4.5 months. And nobody knew whether she will ever be able to speak again or not. Because from that point on, it had become just speculations. And one day, when I came into the rehab, she was saying no, the word no, over and over and over. Everything, I mean, they were trying to dress her up. She said no. They were trying to get her hair done. She said no. And I was overjoyed because I said, okay, no is good. Then total silence for 4.5 months. And her speech therapist came running to me, and she was very excited. And she said, you know what? She has said no today. I bet you that over the next 3 months, I will be able to train her to say 3-word sentences like, I want water, or something like that. And in 3 months, we will be able to find out what she needs. And I was overjoyed. This was at 8 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, she went to her speech therapy room. And the speech therapist 5 minutes later came running to fetch me. And I went there, and she asked me to stop at the door. And I stopped at the door. From the door, I could see Studi sitting. She couldn't see me. She was looking ahead. And the speech therapist was across the room with a chalkboard. And she looked at the chalkboard. She asked me to just stay quiet and said, Studi, what have I written on this board? And Studi said, I love you, Dad.
Do you still see incremental improvement day to day, week to week, month to month? Do you still see the little steps being taken?
I absolutely see that, especially the little improvements. With, you know, she still continues to have physical therapy. She continues to have psychotherapy and everything. With those, every day, I see a little bit of an improvement. Like 2 months ago, for the first time in her life since her accident, she was able to tie her shoelaces. And, you know, we take these things for so granted.
You bet.
And she was just thrilled with joy.
Where can we get the book?
Sorry, go ahead, yeah. Well, let me review. It's Mr. Ajay Jawahar, and the name of his, Dr. Ajay Jawahar. The name of his book is Thumbs Up, God's Love Endures Forever. It's available in a variety of places.
Yes, sir. It's available at Amazon.com. It's also available on a self-publishing website where I self-publish it. It's called createspace.com.
Thank you so much for coming in, AJ. We can't thank you enough. And please give my love again and my son's love to her, to Studi.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all very much.
It is our pleasure entirely. Thank you. Absolutely.